All right, I'm Tony Perkins, and you're listening to Washington Watch. At the beginning of the program, we had Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp on. We were talking about Major League Baseball's decision that they announced on Friday to pull the 2021 All-Star Game and the Major League Baseball draft out of Atlanta. I didn't get into the fact that, Atlanta is a liberal city and they're actually hurting the liberals by pulling it out, but be that as it may, we didn't get into that conversation. The Major League Baseball Commissioner, Rob Manfred, said in his statement that the decision was, quote, the best way to demonstrate our values as a sport, end quote. Oh, don't make me fall out of my chair laughing. So what does it say about their values when they're in a lucrative financial relationship with Tencent, a company with deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and actively helps China's government hunt down and silence political dissidents? With me now to talk about the hypocrisy behind the Major League Baseball announcement is Congressman Mike Waltz, who represents Florida's 6th Congressional District. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee, and he's calling for the 2022 Olympics to be moved from Beijing. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks so much. It's great to be with you.
So, Major League Baseball, a little hypocrisy there?
A lot of hypocrisy here. I don't know if you caught today, Tony, Senator Rubio from Florida's letter to the commissioner, Robert Manfred of Major League Baseball, asking him if he was going to, if he intended to maintain his personal membership at Augusta National Golf Club, which of course is in Augusta, Georgia, a coveted membership to the private club that people are on years-long waiting lists, generations-long waiting lists to have, or is he just going to continue to virtue signal through Major League Baseball? And of course, he's not going to give up his coveted membership at Augusta because that would require personal sacrifice. And to your point on China, of course, they're not going to stand up to the fact that the Chinese Communist Party is enslaving millions of Muslims. The Uyghur minority there is forcing them into slave labor, shaving their heads, loading them onto rail cars, sending them to concentration camps, forced sterilization of their women, a mass rape campaign that the BBC has since exposed and for that exposure. But of course, neither the NBA or Major League Baseball are going to take that kind of a stand on those gross and horrific human rights violations because that would mean that, a loss of revenue. Instead, they can, signal virtue. They can look woke, and as you mentioned, only hurt minority-owned businesses based on a lie. Yeah. That the Georgia voting law actually hurts voters. So it's just, it's hypocrisy all around.
Well, let me switch to another bastion of hypocrisy, the White House, because you've been calling on the administration and on Congress to act as it pertains to the 2022 elections. You want to see the International Olympic Committee to move the Olympics from Beijing, and calling on the United States officially not to participate, at least the government officials to go. I want to play a short clip. This from I played a very short clip at the beginning of the program. Real Clear politics reporter Philip Wegman asking Press Secretary Jen Psaki about this issue of Major League Baseball and China and what the president's going to do. Listen to this.
The president had voiced his support for MLB making a decision about the All-Star Game in Georgia. I'm wondering, when can we expect a final determination from the president about the United States participating in the Beijing Olympics, given that he said the Chinese president doesn't have a democratic bone in his body?
Well, I think the U.S. Olympic Committee would play a big role in
on Major League Baseball here in the United States.
He actually didn't. I don't know if you heard the answer that happened a few minutes ago, where we addressed this, and I answered the question. So, and I give a little more context, but maybe you weren't paying attention to that part.
Sounds like she doesn't want to answer the question.
Yeah, no, of course she doesn't want to answer the question. But the problem is Biden's own Secretary of State admitted in his nomination hearing before the Senate that this is an active and ongoing genocide. So I wish I were there for follow-up questions, but would the Biden administration support having the Olympics in Rwanda in the middle of that genocide, or in Bosnia in the midst of Srebrenica? Would they have had it in Germany in 1944 in the midst of the Holocaust? This is an active and ongoing genocide admitted by his Secretary of State, and yet we're seeing silence when it comes to that. But we're seeing the President of the United States, and good on former Governor Christie for calling him out on it so forcefully, lying to the American people. The Washington Post called Biden out with 4 Pinocchios about the new law closing voter sites at 5 p.m. and also called him out for this notion that they're not allowed to hand out food and water. They're not allowed to hand out food and water if you are a partisan political person, or if it's labeled coming from a political entity, because, as you know, Tony, you cannot campaign to people waiting in line in the polls. And the biggest piece of hypocrisy here is that blue states like New York and Colorado and Virginia and Biden's own Delaware have much more restrictive voting laws than even this new law coming from Georgia. But of course, Major League Baseball is silent on that. Biden is silent on those states because they really don't care about this issue. What they care about is fear-mongering over Georgia, labeling it as racist, labeling the filibuster as racist, and setting the conditions to drop the filibuster H.R. 1. This is really what this is all about. These are moving the chess pieces so that you get that federalized power grab, so that the entire country has to vote like California does. That's what this is all about. And by the way, on Major League Baseball, not only are they hypocritical on China, they're hypocritical on Cuba. The Trump administration stopped a program where Major League Baseball teams were paying the Cuban government for recruited Cuban baseball players. So the government benefits far more than the player does. The Trump administration stopped that program. Major League Baseball has been able to revive it now under the Biden administration. So again, it's hypocrisy all around. They don't care about human rights. They don't care about these people that are being horribly tortured, detained, and oppressed. They just want to look woke for a certain element. But what I just don't understand it from a business standpoint. They're cutting off, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face, because a lot of people are upset about this.
But yes, a lot of people are upset about it. But whether or not this gets to the point where conservatives affects conservatives' economic transactions, which I hope it does. I mean, when you have Delta, who's weighing in on this, their motto used to be, "We love to fly, and it shows." I mean, they should change that to "We love to lie, and it shows." You've got Coca-Cola weighing in on this. You've got Major League Baseball. I hope people change their buying and shopping habits as a result of this.
No, Tony, you're absolutely right. Conservatives have to fight back with their wallet. My call to action every time I talk about China is for people, when you pick something up and that sticker says "Made in China," put it back down.
Yeah.
Until it says "Made in America."
I agree.
But the same thing, Coca-Cola is getting its sugar from Western China. Nike's getting its cotton from Western China. They actively lobbied against a bill that would have restricted those, various elements coming out of there. Disney is filming in Western China, but they're all paid millions to social justice movements here in the United States. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth. We're going to call them out, but they won't change their behavior until we hit them on their bottom line, and that's what conservatives need to do.
Absolutely. And not only is Disney filming there, but they're allowing the Chinese Communist Party to dictate what goes in their movies there in China as well.
That's absolutely right. Not only are they giving them their business and talking about moving film to Georgia, again, in a total double standard, but they're allowing, whether it is erasing the Taiwanese flag, erasing any mention of Tibet or the Dalai Lama, any mention of Hong Kong. And that, Tony, that is a preamble for what the Chinese Communist Party will do to the entire world once they get global economic leverage. First, they'll have it over half the world's trade in Asia. and then their goal is to have it globally, and that is, a global authoritarian regime running our lives and using things like basic minerals, basic materials as leverage for their way, not the China dream, not the American dream, and we need to wake up as a country to it.
Yeah, and they're using their population and that market as leverage on the business community, access to that huge, vast market there in China. I don't want people to miss what you said, because I want to go back through this, because this is really an analysis. I mean, because you connected the dots. You did very quickly, but I want to go back and connect the dots for people so they know exactly what's going on here. Okay, so we have the Major League Baseball. We've got the Biden administration all speaking out on Georgia's election law. Now, we've talked about it with the governor earlier. You mentioned it. This is actually much more generous in terms of allowing voting, extended voting hours, extended early voting periods than many blue states. It's one of about 18 states that have photo IDs required. So they're not alone in that. You mentioned no campaigning in terms of giving out water or food as incentives from campaigns. Doesn't prevent election people from giving out water for those standing in line. It's simply, like every other state, does not allow campaigning or electioneering at a polling place. So all of that is just like it happens in most other states. So we got that, but yet they're not saying anything about China, that is actually killing people, harvesting body parts, putting people in concentration camps, brainwashing them, as you said, systematic programs of rape, go on down the list. But they're not speaking out about that. So there is something else behind this. It is an issue of elections. It is H.R. 1, because if Georgia succeeds, which was the focal point of the November elections, and you've got 38 states that are working to clean up the constitutional irregularities that took place in the November election. If Georgia succeeds, the other states will follow suit. And guess what? You can't manipulate election outcomes.
That's absolutely right. Florida has taken years to clean up its elections. We seek to improve cycle after cycle, and in 2020, we knew the results on election night. We had mail-in voting, but there are strict rules around it in terms of proving you are who you say you are, and it having to be in by 7 p.m. on election night, or that's or the vote doesn't count. Having a cure period, all those things, and now Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, a number of states that had issues, and basically what the Democrats are doing is trying to codify the changes to the rules that they made under the umbrella of COVID that tilt the playing field in their favor, right? And which has been done in California for years, it's been done in New York for years, and that's how they have a supermajority in those states. They're trying to take it nationwide. But number one, from their perspective, if they don't put a line in the sand in Georgia and shame and try to hurt them for doing this, then they fear it's going to happen in other states. And what they are trying to do is justify getting rid of the filibuster, putting H.R. 1 in place, and furthering that power grab. And that's everything that this is about.
You're absolutely right, and that's why I wanted to walk back through that so people would hear what this is about. It's enraging to see what Major League Baseball is doing, Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, but we've got to stay focused on what this is really about. It is about eliminating the filibuster so they can push through H.R. 1, federalize all elections. It's about the Equality Act. It is about changing the cultural and political landscape of America. This is big. That's why they're lying, and they're so desperate to do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Tony. The filibuster in H.R. 1 is the canary in the coal mine, because once it goes, they've justified it in the name of preventing racism to their base. Once that filibuster goes, then it's stacking the Supreme Court, then it's going after the Electoral College. It's really going after the fundamentals of our great republic, and this is why we truly have to toe the line.
Congressman Michael.
Stand firm, as we say in the Army. We have to stand. We got to stand firm in the foxhole on this one.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Congressman Michael Waltz, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks again for your service to our country.
Okay, thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right, Congressman Michael Waltz of Florida, actually the first Green Beret to serve in Congress. A great guy.